Learner language is what learners write or say during communication processes. It serves as avenue for the learners to improve cognitive function and to enhance problem-solving skills. It supports the ability to communicate, to express, and to understand feelings. For the development of learner language, we teachers should know the two approaches to the study of learner language. First is the general cognitive approach. We all know that thinking, remembering, learning, and using the language are all examples of cognitive processes. When we use cognitive approach to learning and teaching, we put the emphasis on comprehending facts and ideas. And our capacity to cognitive approach or to retain information and comprehend concepts will increase if we are able to break down information and we're able to give logical links or concepts and to recreate it. Metacognition here will follow. And we all know that when we say metacognition, it is the process of becoming conscious of these mental processes, keeping them on track, and managing our learning processes. General cognitive approach lies so much on giving emphasis on development and performance. Repetition, organizing new language, summarizing meaning, inferring meaning from context, and employing imagery for memorizing are all examples of cognitive approach that supply language processing to increase learning. And aside from that, enhancing content, evaluating content, choosing the appropriate routines and procedures, and providing instructional assistance fall under the category of teaching methodology. And these are from general cognitive approach. And it is very important that when we're going to develop learner language, we should know this kind of approach, the first one, which is general cognitive approach. The second approach to study learner language development is through formal linguistic approach. It is nothing new to incorporate ideas from formal linguistics into language instruction and teacher preparation, to reach out and to interact more actively with the field of language instruction. Formal linguistics has developed techniques in recent years. There are 6 traditional levels on the way from sound to meaning. So we have here the phonetics, the phonology, morphology, the syntax, the semantics, and the pragmatics. From phonetics to pragmatics, first set of 6 categories divide the study of the linguistic system as a whole, and a different level of description and analysis is the focus of each category. And the traditional associations between sound and meaning are very necessary for spoken communication. We must describe and examine the sounds, the meanings, and the structures that link them in order to comprehend and to better know how it functions. So we have here the cognitivist explanations for the development of learner language. First, we have the operating principles. Second, we have the input processing theory. And the third, we have the usage-based emergentist theories. The first one, which is the operating principles, given that the majority of the evidence of these principles has come from the naturalistic studies of first language acquisition, it is unclear to what extent one should expect to find evidence for the use of similar operating principles in second language acquisition. According to Slobe 1973, proposed that children frequently rely on certain basic and universal strategies when learning the first language, which he called universal operating principles. For instance, if one were to assume that there is a critical period for language acquisition, one might also anticipate that it is to find that adult second language learners do not use fundamental concepts as frequently as youngsters learning a second language. So that is operating principles. And the second one is the input processing theory. So here, the process that learners go through to connect linguistic form with its meaning or function is described by Bill Van Patten's theory of input processing. So in 2003, Van Patten proposed that the IP consists of two sub-processes. We have here the making form meaning connections and parsing. Making form meaning pertains to obtaining the connection between, for example, the S suffix and third person singular from the input. So in an earlier version of the theory, making form meaning was composed of four principles. First, the primacy of meaning principle. Second, the availability of resources principle. The third, the first noun principle. And the fourth, the sentence location principle. And here, the third one is the usage-based emergentist theories. For a long time, it was believed that learning grammar just from linguistic experience was impossible. So, however, developments in usage-based language theory, computational linguistics, and development psychology have altered this perspective over past 10 years, so over the decade, according to the so-called usage-based and emergentist approaches to language acquisition. Language can be learned through social skills like collaborative attention and strong generalization processes, as well as from language use itself. So what is interlanguage? So consider yourself standing on a cliff. You want to cross the wide gap and get the other side. You cannot leap over where you are unable to move around. You cannot fly. However, a bridge can be constructed plank by plank. First, you might be able to consciously cross, but as you continue to strengthen it, one day, you could be able to drive a car through it. Imagine that your original language is your ledge or the cliff, and that you are attempting to master a second language or the other ledge. Your bridge will be referred to as interlanguage for this instance. A linguistic framework utilized by speakers of second language is called interlanguage, or the IL. When learners make an effort to communicate in the target language, they develop this language. The learner's native tongue has an impact on interlanguage because they use it to comprehend and organize the second language or to make up for existing competency gaps. However, interlanguage is totally distinct from both the learner's first language and the second language that is being targeted. Although interlanguage has its own rules, some of the phrases and components are eligible. Since speaker of the interlanguage is made up of both the first language and the second language, as well as the speaker's perceptions, It is never the same from speaker to speaker. Rules are made by learners and are modified by them, as well as by input from teachers, classmates, and other speakers or individuals. Interlanguage processes refers to the linguistic system of learner language produced by adults when they attempt meaningful communication using a language they are in the process of learning. We have here the 4 interlanguage processes. First, we have the simplification. Second, we have the overgeneralization. Third, we have the restructuring, and fourth one is the U-shaped behavior. For the simplification, which is one of the processes of the interlanguage, intralingual or development errors are due to reliance on simplification and generalization. Deletion of articles, auxiliaries, for example, deletion of prepositions and some pronouns attributes simplification. It reduces the range of possible structures. The second one is the overgeneralization. This is the term used most often in connection with language acquisition. For example, some children used to say foots instead of feet, which tends to overgeneralize the morphological rule for making plural nouns. The third one is restructuring. So according to Slinker 1972, adults engaged in restructuring to learn the second language. And the second language learners commit fossilization because they do not attain the target language competence. It's because they do not also reach the apex of their interlanguage spectrum. The fourth interlanguage process is the U-shaped behavior. It refers to the situation in second language acquisition when the learner's proficiency suddenly but temporarily drops off only to return once again to their usual level. So this actually occurs because learners reorganize their existing knowledge to accommodate new knowledge. For the future of interlanguage, so we have here the teleological view of the interlanguage as development toward a native language target is problematic. So another one is the monolingual native language as the yardstick of success according to Shredhan, Seloter, Cook, and Klein. And we have here the metaphor of developmental ladder rather than dynamic or self-organizing system according to Freeman. And the learner's spontaneous attempts to communicate in a language they are learning are known as learner language. The grammar, the vocabulary, and pronunciation in learner languages are supported by a system called interlanguage and sometimes referred to as a target language. The language being taught, so another meaning of the interlanguage. The target language here and the learner language can diverge significantly. Interlanguage processes are what learners use to continually build and refine their interlanguage. And for example, for the fourth interlanguage process, which is the U-shaped behavior, it is stated that this is a result of early learners accidentally being correct because they are less familiar with and inclined to follow grammar rules. More education and knowledge of grammar make students more aware of metalinguistic which makes it more likely that they will break some rules. And this is fixed with time, and the learners eventually reach a level closer to that of a natural speaker. Researchers have found out that learners who have received grammar-based instruction will pass through the same developmental sequences and make the same types of errors as those who acquire language in natural settings. Research also shows that the second language learners from different first language backgrounds often make the same kinds of errors when learning the second language. And the transfer of patterns from the first language is only one of the major sources of errors in learner language.